Tony Britt Spotter Charts serves sports media exclusively with customized cheat sheets for both prep and game time. Serving over 350 clients at all major networks, 23 NFL teams, and 68 college football programs, including Division II, Division III, and NAIA schools. Variable pricing ensures that small schools receive the same VIP service as ABC, CBS, ESPN, Fox, NBC, and the NFL Network. Welcome to Voices in the Stands. I am Matthew Nickel. Carlo has the night off. And before we get started, I do want to thank Tony Britt Spotter Charts. They serve, a ton of sports media exclusively with, sheets, both prep and game time, 350 plus clients, 23 NFL teams, 68 college football teams, including D2, 3, and NAIA, and both Augustana with me and Josh for Whitewater. So we are active clients here as well. So again, Tony Britt, appreciate it. All right, we are into Tony, Empire 8, Utica. Tell us a little bit about it.
Let's set the stage, right? So you got this Utica quarterback that enters, this week. He comes in as, ranked nationally #1 in passing touchdowns, ranked third in the nation in passing yards. You have Portland, who hasn't lost a conference game since 2019. So it's a big game, lots of rivalry, and kind of like I was talking off air a little bit before, in years past, Utica a lot of the times let the game get bigger than them, and I think kind of mentally psych themselves out. And that didn't happen this game. I think they came in swinging, ready to go. Down the first drive, had a little tip drill interception. Utica gives up the ball. Cortland capitalizes and scores, and then Utica comes right back, gets the ball, and does their thing methodically, go down the field and tie it up. And then you start thinking, wow, this is going to be, a battle. It was really a tale of the defensive kind of battles back and forth. Each defense was stopping the offense. A lot of punts involved. And when you look at the box score, it really was, kind of even. I mean, total yardage for Utica was 393, 394 for Cortland. Passing yards for Utica was 339. Cortland was only 184. But here's the rub. Utica only had 54 rushing yards, and one of those was a 40-yard rip. So they really stopped our running game. And Cortland had 210 yards, and I think the Cortland quarterback had like 130 and change of that. Just on his own. Penalty yards, Utica had 7 for 55, not bad compared to weeks before. Cortland had 12 penalties for 114 yards, and we just didn't make them pay enough for that. First downs were pretty even, 21-22. Third downs, Utica was 8 for 13, not bad, and Cortland was 2 for 9. Time of possession was kind of even, 28 minutes for Utica and 15 seconds, and Cortland was about 31, almost 32 minutes in possession. So it was really about timing and when the things were happening, right? The other thing that I think Cortland did really well was in-game adjustments. I mean, that first quarter, it looks like Utica was doing, they were down to their game plan, they were doing what they had to do. And the Cortland defense really clamped down that second and that third quarter, and really did what, let's call it what it is, what kind of the blueprint has been, right? And we talked about it in the chat a little bit, where the narrative now is going to be, hey, you just got to put pressure on that kid and make him uncomfortable. And that's kind of what they did. But I did like a lot what I saw. He had a lot of poise in his game. I would have loved to see Utica do something different out of the half, like maybe some up tempo or some more quarterback design runs that seemed like they were working a little bit. But that's just that's just me Monday morning quarterbacking a little bit. I feel like we needed to do something a little bit to kind of like spark down the road. But you got to tip your cap. Cortland is Cortland. They're the defending champs for a reason. There's some new faces there, but they are who they are, and we are who we are. So now, what do we got to do? Now we have to go and we face Morrisville coming up this week, and we got to take it to Morrisville and make them pay the penalty, make them pay the price. Some other quick scores around the horn for the E8. Alfred topped Morrisville 41-21. Alfred University topped Hartwick 45-24. I'm a little bit surprised at that. No shade on Hartwick, but they scored 24 points on Alfred, which is kind of interesting. St. John Fisher pulled one out in overtime against Brockport, 31-24. So the E8 is kind of balanced a little bit. It kind of be from week to week. Now I'm going to start rooting for some of our EA rivals, because if somebody goes and pulls a little bit of a stunner on Cortland, which could happen, now it gets real. Then it gets into the math. Then I'm gonna have to ask you guys, well, you math whizzes, like what, I don't even know what the tiebreakers are, but it gets into that zone. Basically, we have to go 1-0 each week, or we have to worry about the opponent in front of us. And we really don't have any more wiggle room to kind of give up and whatever, especially if we want to make some type of postseason run at a conference championship or even a bowl. We got to start now running the table. And I know it's way early and whatever, but that's what this is about at this stage in the season, and I think we all can relate to that. So that's it for me.
Well, and it's not too late quite in the season, but you're going to start seeing some of that separation actually happen, right? I mean, Cortland's 3-0, St. John's Fish is 2-0 in the conference, and then Alfred State, Brockport, and Utica are all 1-1. So it's really when you're going to start separating, those tied for third, and you got to start getting some conference wins, against Cortland and St. John's Fisher. So, outside of that, I mean, I don't think there's Hartwick and Morrisville. You're probably going to necessarily worry too much about them, kind of at the bottom of the conference there. But ultimately, yeah, there needs to be some movement can happen quite a bit over the next 2 or 3 weeks there, kind of in that
Absolutely.
kind of third. So that's good. That's good. Well, hey, we're going to move on to a little bit of CCIW talk, and we have a video from our fearless leader, Carlo, and we'll play that for you now. All right, well, David, you were there. Little brass bell game. It was dominating, to say the least, on North Central. Tell us a little bit about North Central and Wheaton.
Yeah, it was awesome. First of all, Carlo making the trip, and him and his fiance, got to meet them IRL in real life. Had a beer and was able to chat, introduce them to some of my friends and the folks there around the North Central tailgate, which was incredible. Homecoming it's absolutely the best. So, but yeah, I mean, this isn't just another game, right? I mean, when you look at the results, it was a statement game, and North Central didn't just defend the little brass bell. I think they really cemented their identity as probably the most complete team in Division III to this point, right? So, the schools are like 10 miles apart, trophy game, rivalry game, playing for that little brass bell. It's a relic of the railway that used to run between the two campuses. And so it's kind of the bragging rights of the county. And now 5 straight years with North Central. It's been 2019 since Wheaton has won. And, these rivalry trophies usually go home with the better team, because both teams are amped up. So, that's kind of where we're at right now. It's North Central's homecoming. It's under the lights. Wheaton comes in ranked 14, North Central ranked number 1. Thinking about Wheaton, they put up 29 points on Mount Union, remember, in week 1. Mm-hmm. And they're the team sitting at number 2. So on Saturday night, what happened at Benedetti Worley Stadium? Wheaton never crossed the goal line. Final score, North Central 35, Wheaton 0. And there were a couple of North Central miscues that kept it closer than it was. Interception that a lot of us debated whether or not we should have thrown the ball there, but that ball is throwing like 2 yards longer. It's a touchdown, and instead of it being 21-0 at half, it's 28-0 at half. But outside of that miscue, and outside of the first series, both teams had ugly first series, 3-and-outs for both teams. But outside of that, for North Central, it's pretty solid. So obviously, as I said, the stage was set, 5 straight wins, for the bell on the line for North Central. The Thunder, or as I refer to them from Saturday night, the Murmur, they came in, they brought the level of energy that they always bring. It's a big game, and they come in ready. You tip your cap to them. I mean, they never come in and lay down, never. And so that you're going to have a worthy opponent when you face them. And but North Central brought something more. I mean, the discipline, the physicality, the execution, and defense that looks like it should be in the conversation for one of the top defenses, in the history of Division III. That always kind of elicits a lot of different kinds of comparisons and conversations. But bottom line, when you look at the statistics and kind of how they're performing, that are they shutting everybody out? No. But, when you look at the dominance in this game against a very high-quality opponent, it's definitely a question that needs to be talked about. So Wheaton ran 63 plays. Almost half of the snaps that they took went for 0 or negative yards. Almost half.
Ridiculous.
I think it was 40%. 10 of those were tackles for loss. That includes 6 sacks. 15 incomplete passes, 5 more plays. I think it was 5 or 6 more plays that went for 0 yards. So at the end of the night, Wheaton finished with -2 rushing yards.
They are
-2.
missing Giovanni Weeks.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. And then on the passing side, they had 150 yards. So net, they had 148 yards. I mean, look at how they had been rolling coming into this game. It's just not, it's just not normal to be shut down like that. And I know it was incredibly, frustrating for them. But, and once again, I like talking about this, but Wheaton had more punt yards offense than they had offensive total yards. And we're seeing that consistently. So just another sign that this defense has been awesome. They're forcing, 3-and-outs on half of the possessions of the opponents. It's just crazy. So, 21-0 at halftime. I indicated it could have been, a little bit worse. And again, tip the cap to Wheaton. They came out, they made some adjustments in the second half. They were keeping an extra guy in to block because North Central was getting incredible pressure. And they were doing a little more chipping instead of trying to hold people off and breaking off on some shorter routes to try to get the pass game going. And so it worked for them. And so for the first time, an opponent actually had 2 sustained drives against North Central. So Wheaton kind of dominated that third quarter. They were able to get those drives going, but at the end, North Central was able to turn them away. Wheaton got cute, tried to do a little halfback pass, and Nucci, he was right there for the pick in the end zone. And then on the next drive, I think they had they were down, I don't know, can't remember specifically now, but they were down either in or pretty close to the red zone, 4th and 2, and North Central brought the heat and just smothered them with a huge quarterback sack. So it was awesome, no doubt about it. In the post-game press conference, Coach Spencer, I think he talked about it really well as it relates to, the culture is a real big, buzzword, and I've used it. A lot of people use it, and that's definitely present. But the one word that he talked about was accountability and how that spreads across, the entire team and throughout the entire program. And the other themes that you hear whenever you hear any of the players, they don't talk about individual accolades. And it's the running back room. It's the team. It's I got to do my 111th, when my number is called. It's not about, I should be getting more carries, that type of mentality. And And so there's that true team aspect. But it really came through. I had a chance to talk to JP Sullivan, and I'll make a plug right here for the first time ever. Maybe we should start looking at a D lineman as a possible Gagliardi trophy winner. This guy is incredible. He's amazing. Talking to him after the game, he's a beast out there on the field, and he was just so calm. And I'm sitting there and I'm like hyped, right? I got adrenaline flowing through me like crazy. And I'm like, dude. And he's just, kind of casual, down to earth. I said, do you have any idea what the stats were? Do you guys realize the dominating performance you had? And he was like, yeah. He goes, I understand we did pretty well. And I'm like, no, you didn't do well. You were phenomenal. And he was just so humble about it. He wasn't out there, kind of bragging, and he was just, hanging out. A lot of the players that come to the tailgate after, there's, food there for him, and it was really cool too. They brought the little brass bell that was on display on the table there at the tailgate after the game. So awesome atmosphere, a lot of fun. Just taking a look at, where we are and where we're going. I'm feeling better and more confident. I mean, 3 of the 4 opponents that we started off the season with, very high quality opponents, and I beg to differ with the 2 folks that decided to give their first place vote in the D3 football poll this week to Mount Union. I mean, you can talk the eye test all you want, thinking that you saw them and you're making your comparison and decision based on that, but I don't think your eyes have seen the stat sheet.
Well, I mean, one of the plays that looks so effortless to me was that 38-yard pass to Jack Rummel up the boundary, perfectly placed, in between, essentially the corner and that free safety for Wheaton, little cutback. I mean, it just looked effortless. And I mean, 279, rushing, 172 passing. Defensively, they were awesome. And I had shared this. They shared this on the broadcast, but the last shutout in the series was back in 1989. So I was like 7. Wheaton won 28-0 in Naperville. Now, the last time North Central shut out Wheaton was a 13-0 win in 1964. So you want to talk about how competitive those teams have been, has been awesome. But,
absolutely.
We had a lot of good games across CCIW. I'll kind of walk through those, and then we will cut it over here to crew. But it was a shootout in St. Louis. WashU 42, Illinois Wesleyan 40. Now, WashU rolled up 421 yards on the ground, including 4 touchdowns, 2 running backs over 150 yards. So Matthew Kinashida, 167, Fred Ware, 159. Oh, and Levi Moore, the quarterback, who passed for a pair of touchdowns, also ran for 92 and a touchdown. So, but the team I think that's really on the rise in the CCIW, Illinois Wesleyan. I mean, Dermot Smythe, 313, a pair of touchdowns. Will Nazha, 158 receiving. And then Danny Kent had an 80-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So Jared Williamson, I mean, he was there for a time, for the Titans. His kind of first year back at the helm. Man, he has them playing really well. Another really good game. Augustana, they spoiled North Park's homecoming. They spoiled ours last year, so it's payback. They beat us in overtime. We won 24-21 this year. Augustana put up – yeah.
I was just going to say it's really interesting because North Park was the darling of a few people that cover the D3 world last year, and they were real complimentary of the passing game. And they came into North Central. North Central it was like they were a bug, and North Central just smashed them. But they were showing growth and improvement, and it seems like that has now taken a step back, and that's unfortunate because. Obviously,
I don't know if I agree.
As a North Central guy, I want all of the teams in the CCIW to be able to elevate because it makes everybody better. And in the world of MPI, it's absolutely necessary. You want everybody winning those non-conference games, and we only have one non-conference game this year.
I mean, I disagree a little bit. I think North Park is still on the rise. I think Kyle Rooker is he's recruiting really well. Now they had Matt Eck. I mean, he was a great quarterback, but they have Calix Dillon. I mean, he's been bowling out. I feel like I don't know what year he is, but I feel like he's like freshman, sophomore, maybe. But they have Wesley McLeod. I mean, he can take the top off. So I think they're continuing to do well. They had that preseason All American. They have, Umbago. But Bryce Black, I mean, gosh, he just had a broken coverage touchdown. But I don't know. I think Kyle Rooker's doing some good things up there. But again, will they reach the mountaintop? It's a big mountain. Big mountain. But Rooker, I mean, he's doing well there. I mean, but when you have the Vikings that come in and Jimmy McHugh, I mean, gosh, 78% on the day, 283, 3 touchdowns. Toby Split had a pair of interceptions. Darren Oregon had one as well. You know, if the Vikings can just figure out there in the secondary, keep the top off the offense and take away those seam routes and figure out who's going to play our boundary corner. I mean, that defense is looking pretty good because offensively, they can move the ball. Yeah, North Park's an interesting one. I think it's going to be interesting to see Wesley and North Park, continue to kind of face off here. Carroll made the 252-mile from Waukesha down to Decatur. They took care of Milliken 28-17. Nothing spectacular there to write home about. I mean, both teams were perfect inside the red zone. But outside of that, it was when you look at the box score, it's pretty even. So, outside of Milliken had a fumble, or excuse me, Milliken lost, I believe, their fumble. Carthage didn't lose theirs, but again, it was just like kind of even Steven. I feel like the one that's taken a step back is Carroll. I would always think they were, I would say a top 4 or 5 team, in the CCIW, but I feel like this year they've taken kind of a big step back, and it's like, yeah, let's go play Carroll. Let's beat up on them. I don't think they're any different than, I mean, Carthage beat Elmhurst 31-7. I didn't watch the game. I didn't check it out. But looking at the stats and kind of the scoring plays, it looked like one of those games where they're only played on one side of the field or like in the middle of the field, and they just kind of move the ball back and forth until you move the ball to one side a little bit more than the other, and that was really about it. So, but right now, I mean, North Central, perfect. Vikings of Augustana, WashU, Illinois Wesleyan, and Wheaton are all 2-1. So right now it's trying to find that second spot, for potentially the playoffs and Isthmus Bowl. So it's tight for that number 2 and number 3 spot right now. So anybody wants to go either one, you got to be perfect.
Yep, no doubt about it.
All right. Well, let's talk a little ASC sports, ASC conference, and the crew. So we'll kick it over to Couch Crew.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with our game on Saturday. Finally, got off the schneid, got a win under our belt in East Texas. Not an easy place to play historically. I mean, I say that it's a team that we've only ever lost once to in 25 years, but we've definitely almost lost games in Marshall, Texas, which is almost in Louisiana. It's 4 hours away in East Texas. It's a decent trip. Tough place to play. They were 4-0, so we expected their best effort, and we definitely got it. We were trailing at halftime, 28-21. End up winning the game, shutting them out in the second half. What just continues to kind of amaze me about Meyerhard and Baylor this season is that the difference in our team from when they flip the switch and have excellent effort and energy is, I mean, it's got to be the biggest difference of any team in the division as far as our potential, our ceiling, and where we're playing at sometimes this season. When we give effort and really fly around and kind of got our mojo going, I guess is the best way to say it. We're a very good football team. We saw some of that in the second half, thankfully, because we're going to need it this upcoming Saturday, which is Hardin-Simmons week. That's our big rivalry in the ASC. That's kind of the equivalent to the North Central Wheaton games for us down here. Definitely a historic rivalry. I went back and looked at it. It's actually a little closer than I thought. In conference, we've played them so many times in the playoffs, and for the most part have beaten them in the playoffs, including last year. But the season series is actually 15-9 in favor of Mary Hardin-Baylor, which is a little closer than some people might expect. Given our dominance, I think there was like a 10-year stretch where we didn't lose, but we have lost 3 out of our last 4 against Hardin-Simmons. And then, they beat us twice in the regular season last year, and we beat them in the playoffs and advanced to the next round. So that's, looking at that game, it's really interesting. They're playing great. They're 4-0. They just beat Howard Payne, 62-14, I think, somewhere around there. They've got most of their guys back. Kyle Brown at quarterback has been extremely efficient for Hardin-Simmons. I think 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. They got basically their whole receiving core back. But the big battle I'm watching for on Saturday is going to be their run game, because they're led by Noah Garcia, who's pretty much their guy on offense. Just a really, really good running back. And even in years that we've had great defenses, they've pushed us around a little bit. They've got a way, especially in Abilene, where they kind of figure out how to get a hold of your shoulder pads and rip you around without getting the holding call. They're really good at that. I'm not saying that they're holding us. I'm just saying that they're very good technically, and they will run the ball down your throat if you don't meet them at the line of scrimmage. So given the way that Wisconsin Whitewater and Mars Hill were able to run the ball against us, that's the big battle I'm watching. We were better this last week against East Texas Baptist against the run, which was really encouraging because they had a great two-headed running back system in East Texas, and I think we held them to like 3.5 yards a carry or something, which was a big improvement. So it's a rivalry game. It's a big one. I think Dave mentioned it. Rivalry games, you're going to get the best effort from both sides, so the best team usually wins, right? It's going to be really interesting to see that. We got to go to Abilene Saturday, and there's really no other way to say it, but we didn't get any Division III wins in the non-conference, right? So every game is essentially a must-win. If you want to be sure to get in the playoffs this season, in the American Southwest Conference, if you're Mary Hardin-Baylor, you got to win out. So the stakes just continue to rise, and it's going to be a good one. I'll probably end up making the trip.
Yeah, I was just looking at that Hardin-Simmons game. Gosh, 453 yards through the air. So hope Mary Hardin-Baylor's ready to tamp that down. Because you mentioned the running game. I mean, yeah, they put 255 on the ground, but my Lord, 453 through the air is that's a big number. I mean, I don't know a ton about Howard Payne, but are they the Elmhurst? How are they kind of?
This year maybe. I don't think they're a horrible football team. They've dealt with a lot of attrition and coaching. We actually got their athletic director, who hired, I think he was there for, I want to say 4 or 5 seasons, and hired 2 really good head coaches, both of which are now Division I head coaches that came through Howard Payne and kind of used it as a stepping stone to bigger jobs. So it's kind of a tough spot to be, if you're Howard Payne, because you've had 2 awesome head coaches that have come and gone. And they were able to get just right up to the edge, right at the precipice of being really, really competitive in the American Southwest Conference when those guys were there, and just never got over the hump because those coaches left. So right now they're kind of in a rebuilding mode. I would say they're probably we've only got 4 teams in the conference right now until next year until we get McMurray and Schreiner. So right now it's just Hardin-Simmons, Mary Hardin, Baylor, East Texas Baptist, and Howard Payne. So Howard Payne is kind of, I would say, probably the bottom of the conference. But still, Hardin-Simmons is Hardin-Simmons. Abilene is Abilene. It's actually a little bit of an elevation when you drive all the way out there. West Texas starts to climb pretty quick. It's windy as hell every year. I mean, it's windy, it's dusty. It's not an easy place to play. A lot of the same stuff that you hear about, having to play in Lubbock at the Division I level. It's similar to Abilene as far as the home field advantage. So not an easy place to play. They're going to be put together. They always are. And we have yet to put together 4 quarters of really good football. So I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be rooting for my team. I'll definitely make the drive. But, we're going to have to play our very best to have a shot.
Well, they get a shot there, then they get them back in Belton, back on November 8th. So, steal one, here this week and set it up, to take the rest of the conference there here in a few weeks. Because, after that, then, they have Howard Payne. And so could be it's basically going to tell you, I think, who's probably going to get into the playoffs, come this week.
Yeah, this is probably typically your conference title game, but now we've got, like you said, home and away all in one season with the round robin. So hopefully we can go out there and put it together and get it done, and then back home in November will be a massive game if we can pull it off.
Well, we'll be connected, so we'll see how things go on Saturday. Now, turning to, well, I'm gonna start it with this. All right. So we have, Mike and Josh are gonna talk about the WIAC, but I do love the video that was put out. Platteville, is it WIAC or WIAC? Then they kind of dropped the WIAC. So Platteville's an engineering school, but ultimately can't get the W. It's so tough. I mean, WIAC, but anyway, we're going to turn it here to the WIAC crew. Mike and Josh, take it away.
Yeah, it's WIAC as far as I'm concerned. Josh?
That a boy, Mike. That a boy. Yes.
Take us
the
to 20,000 people.
WEAC is the Wisconsin Education Association Council. That's the WIAC. The WIAC is the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. They're spelled differently. They're pronounced differently. That's the only form of the argument I see. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to pass it to you to tell us about what you and 20,000 of your friends saw on Saturday. That was the biggest game in the WIAC. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it was a lot of pain from our booth, unfortunately. And as great as we were feeling at the end of the first half, up 17-0, the catastrophic, cataclysmic, whatever adjective you want to describe for the collapse that happened in the second half, a couple of special teams gaffes, the unoriginality on offense that we saw so much of in the first half, and it looks so good from Whitewater, right? My co-host who played for them has been watching football, and several people that we talked to out in the parking lot, drowning our sorrows in cold beverages afterwards, said it was so creative to see things, new things from the offensive coordinator, Caden Murphy. There was one play that they set up with the offensive line mostly to the left, and kind of like one of those 2-point conversion, extra points, you're not sure what they're going to do kind of thing. And you had one of the lacrosse linemen caught right in the middle of both groups. He didn't know where he was supposed to go when they snapped the ball. We saw none of that in the second half. As great as we played in the first half, the wheels came completely off in the second half. And, talking to some people, it felt like to us, right? And I've seen this over the years with a lot of Badger football. You're just playing the clock. You're wanting to get this game over. You're just satisfied with what you can do. Your defense is playing great because they did not do anything offensively. Our defense, Whitewater's defense, was just spectacular. They couldn't do anything. But unfortunately, you can't fumble as many times as we did, lose them, throw some picks, and you had the strip sack at the end of or at the first half of the second overtime. And all lacrosse needed to do was hit a field goal. And Michael Stack, I'm just like Caleb Blaha for River Falls. I'm wanting to get these guys out of here, right? I'm tired of seeing them. 2 years ago, he hit a 50-plus yard field goal into the wind to beat us at the buzzer. And now he nails one in the second overtime to beat us at Perkins Stadium. And Coach Jace Rindle has not beaten Coach Janis in 3 years, right? So there was a 19-game winning streak at one point for Whitewater, and now it's a 3-year losing streak for this. We lost up there last year. They beat us at Perkins Stadium 2 years ago, so they've come down here and beat us twice. It took one to the buzzer, took one to double overtime. The defense not able to stop a backup quarterback coming in and just allowing him to go down the field. And we didn't take advantage of turnovers. There was just a lot of things in that ball game. And I know I heard from a lot of people on social media, and I couldn't answer a whole lot, but I saw people commenting, during the breaks and stuff like that. And like, wait a minute, how did this get to overtime? Wait a minute, how did this get to double overtime? Believe me, we were as surprised as anybody. The end of the first half, I'm thinking, this is the team that everybody picked to win the conference? You kidding me? Maybe they're not that good, and maybe we're better than we thought. And now I feel like we're back to kind of square one. But you could definitely tell it's the conference season, right? You're not playing Carleton. You're not playing St. Xavier. No disrespect to those programs. It's just it's just on another level when La Crosse and Whitewater and a lot of the teams from the WIAC get together. That's just how it is. You were able to take in a lot of the conference games. I don't know, what are some of your initial thoughts?
Yeah, just that. These teams, they all know each other so well. There's so much familiarity. A lot of the players are from a lot of the same high schools. So you're going to see a lot of this throughout the whole schedule slate. A lot of 3-point games, 4-point games. Who's got the ball last type of things. And when I'm looking at that Whitewater game in particular, one thing I noticed was just two really good defenses, which is what we kind of knew. But Whitewater pounding the rock like they've done all year, and they've been really good at it. I saw 2.7 yards per attempt, and that's just not going to get it done, firsthand. And then when you got a quarterback in Klinkner there who completes 16 passes but for only 79 yards, well, if you can only throw for 70 yards to the air and you're only getting 2.7 on the ground, well, now you're zero-dimensional on offense. So there's definitely some issues that Whitewater has to work through, but a good team like La Crosse is going to expose those. So now hopefully they have a chance to rectify that before they get back into some of the big dogs. As the slate progresses, they have a good week ahead of them with Stevens Point to kind of make some of those corrections as they go forwards. But what about this River Falls Oshkosh game? I thought this game was just really bizarre. So, kind of forget who's playing here. I want to do a little exercise with this game, okay? So one team here has 27 first downs in comparison to 15. It's almost doubles them up. That same team rushes for more yards, pass for more yards, has more total offensive yardage, has 35 extra plays on offense. They punt 5 less times. They win the time of possession battle, and they lose. You just do not see that very often in any level of football. But that, again, goes to speak about the WIAC and what it takes to win in this league. You can win every statistical category and come out on the wrong end. And a good team like Oshkosh will do that. You talk about all those stats that they won right there, but they lost the big one. They lost the turnover battle 3-0. Caleb Blaha, an excellent quarterback, made 2 interceptions that were, on him, but also in really bad parts of the field. One was in the end zone when they were in the very low red zone, and one was at the 2-yard line. You can't throw interceptions, but you really can't throw them in that area of the field. Late in the game, if you fast forward 5 minutes left, Oshkosh is up 14-10. River Falls has the ball at their own 8-yard line. They go 14 plays, 92 yards, and they score with 1:20 left to go up 3. So it's 17-14 River Falls with a minute left. Oshkosh gets the ball at their own 35 after the kick. They go 8 plays, 66 yards. They score on a touchdown pass with 10 seconds left to win it. Again, just wacky WIAC-ness. You have to come back in with lacrosse there. You have this 2-minute drill turn into another 1-minute drill. And that's just what we come to expect in this league. But, looking at River Falls here, this is a team that I've been on this show, I think, since week 1. I have concerns about River Falls. I'm not on this River Falls as a playoff contender, train that some people are on. And some of that was exposed today. I just don't think they have the horsepower that they had last year when, unfortunately, Blaha, was lost for the season. What's your takeaway from this one, Josh?
Yeah, it seems like you are kind of dead on in your predictions so far, at least besting what I thought. This makes me feel a little bit better about our chances from a Whitewater perspective. Yeah, you mentioned the statistical categories, but I think couple of the big ones that matter are average yards per carry, average yards per pass attempt, and average yards per completion, and also average yards per play. And those all are in favor of the Titans. And that's pretty big, having the fact that look, River Falls, they can put up a bunch of yards, but if you get some defensive stops and also keep their defense on the field at the rate that they run plays, you're going to be able to if you can score, you're going to be able to keep pace in a track meet, and you have a chance to win at the end. And now looking back at our offense, that was pretty explosive for 3 games and was held pretty in check. You don't want to be chasing anybody. Unfortunately, you're 0-1 in the conference. And if you're looking to win the conference title, you're going to be constantly looking at who all the teams above you are playing, and you're going to be rooting against those teams while also trying to take care of your own business. So the fact that River Falls is tied with us at 0-1, that makes me feel at least a little bit better.
Yeah. Moving across the state, another team that moved to 0-1 or 1-0 in the conference that I think is going to give some teams some fits again this year, and that's UW Stout. This was the game I was at, the I-94 rivalry game, and it was a really good game for the first half, and then Stout just took over. You look back at it, it was really Stout domination. They rushed for 225 yards. Eau Claire just rushed for just 4. Eau Claire, that was 0.2 yards per attempt to Stout's 4.5. Stout had 450 yards of total offense, 66% on third downs, and Adam Moen was their leading rusher with 92 yards, and then he threw for 227 on just 10 completions. They have a really good receiver, Stout does. His name is Devontae Evans. He's a big body, speedster, take the top off the defense type of receiver. You can't let him get behind you. And back-to-back receptions of his, he goes for 50-yard bombs. And it's just inexcusable how that can happen, from Eau Claire's standpoint. It was just really disappointing. Obviously, I want to see our program continue to build, and we've taken a ton of steps forward, and this team is really, really young, really, really young. And it's one of those situations where in front of a huge crowd, ton of momentum behind this team, and it just kind of looks like the moment was a little too big for this young team. So I hope that we can look back in a couple of years as these sophomores and freshmen that are playing right now, our seniors and juniors, I hope we can look back and say, that was a moment where, they found out what it takes to win in this league, because it was just disappointing. And Stout, it looks really good. Stout's a team that gets better every single game. We've seen that in previous years where they lost to Carroll last year, and then they just went on a tear. That offense that I saw against Wartburg was drastically different than the offense I saw from Stout this week. So the whole WIAC cannot take them easily, and that firsthand.
Yeah, that was a pretty crushing loss up in Menominee last year for Whitewater. And I said on warhawkfootball.com on my weekly predictions that with the change in offensive coordinators and the guy going from Stout to lacrosse and the guy going from Whitewater back to Stout, I thought maybe there'd be a little bit of difference in the offense. And I didn't think Adam Moen would be as effective this year, and that offense would be as effective this year as they were last year. And if you're basing this on their opening game against Eau Claire, that's obviously dead wrong. Now, I was hoping that Eau Claire would take a little step forward along with Stevens Point, not occupy those bottom two spots in the conference. I mean, we're going to get to Point and Platteville. There's not much to talk about in that game, obviously, because it was an absolute blowout. But Point hasn't won a conference game since before COVID. I was hoping Eau Claire would kind of be taking another step with the Pointers, that they might be able to get one. But Stout kind of proved me wrong, at least this week, with those stats that you pointed out with Moen passing for 2 touchdowns, running for 2 touchdowns, over 300 total yards just on him through the air and with his legs. So that's got me a little bit more concerned, as that's going to be a Friday night game in Whitewater, because again, we have to host the state marching band competition on a Saturday. So that Stout game is going to get moved up a day to a Friday night, the last Friday night of high school football in Wisconsin. So it's one less day to prepare for this offense. But after seeing what they did to Eau Claire, I don't know if I feel worse that Eau Claire or that Stout might be better than I thought, or better that Eau Claire maybe is not as good as I thought.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. And moving to the last game, Stevens Point and Platteville here. Platteville might be one of those top 10 teams in the country that's just kind of flying under the radar. They blew the doors off of Aurora in week 1. Had a great performance against Springfield, excellent performance against Dubuque, and 52 rip against a Stevens Point team that was 3-0. We all thought they had some really impressive non-conference wins. We thought was taking some steps forward. And this is exactly what Platteville has done all year with their defense. I mean, 128 total yards of offense for Stevens Point, 60 through the air, 60 on the ground. That's just this is the identity of Platteville at this point, is stifling defense. The same thing they've done all non-conference. This is a team that people are going to have to start talking about, because we hear a lot about River Falls and Whitewater and La Crosse, but we can't forget about those guys down there. That they are just really, really good.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see that this was a Platteville team that dominated through the air more so than on the ground. They had a couple of touchdowns rushing. Zach Bothan, their leading running backs, one of our recruits from our area, one of the local high schools that our group of radio stations has covered. I thought he was going to have a massive game, but instead the quarterback 31 for 38 for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, did throw a pick, but I mean those are pretty good numbers passing against Stout. So I don't remember saying this guy's name, and I'm probably going to say it wrong. I'm going to have to get a pronouncer before we play the Pioneers. Christian Gavrik, 15 catches for 154 and a score. We're going to probably have to double him, I'm going to say at this point, and I think that's a definite coming out party for that guy. So Platteville's offense a little bit more impressive than its defense for putting up those kind of numbers. Not traditionally what you see. Defense still impressive, like you say, but again, you're playing Point. But when you can put up those kinds of numbers offensively, that's kind of eye-opening.
Yep. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Look out for that team. Toss it back to the big boss here today, Matt.
Well, I was just waiting. When are you guys going to talk a little bit about Platteville? I mean, I think potentially this game between Platteville and River Falls, winner of this is the leading indicator to potentially win the conference. I think whoever loses it certainly is not. So I mean, River Falls #1 offense right now. Get it early in the season. #1 defense in the WIAC. Platteville, River Falls is 7 in terms of points per game. So I don't know, man. Platteville has turned it on since about halfway through that 2023 season, and they have not turned it off. So I think right now it's their conference to lose than it is more to win. Outside looking in.
Yeah, I love that take. I mean, they're the defending champs, right? So they're the defending champs until someone says that they're not. So can't forget it.
All right, I want your 2 predictions. Who plays in the Isthmus Bowl representing the WIAC this year? It's early. Do we have a Wheaton Oshkosh rematch? Wheaton doesn't get in? Or is
Yeah, I
excuse me,
think
Wheaton Stout rematch?
Oh, yeah. Go
I
ahead,
don't think it's
Mike.
gonna be Stott. I think it's gonna be Oshkosh. I think Wheaton gets in. So then who finishes third there? I mean, who does finish third there? Wash U. It's got to be Wash U then. Yeah, so probably Oshkosh, or I think Wash U's in the driver's seat. Man, it could be River Falls again. I think the Isthmus Bowl could get sick of seeing the Falcons. They've had the Falcons so much, but I'll switch up and say Oshkosh gets that bid. Oshkosh and Wash U.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to play the WIAC school. And right now, after this first week, I have no idea what's going to happen. Obviously, just coming fresh off lacrosse, seeing what they did to Whitewater, and going to hope for some help, and seeing some of the chatter out there that the WIAC can put 3, maybe 4 teams in the playoffs. I don't know about that, because we had some teams that were really good last year, and we only wound up with 2. And lacrosse won their first game, and then both teams lost in that second round. So, I'm waiting for that lacrosse Oshkosh game. That's going to happen in a couple of weeks. And given what the Titans did to River Falls, that's going to be huge on the 25th. I think after that I'll have a little bit better gauge, but still kind of a bad taste in my mouth after Oshkosh had the conference and lost their last 2 games last year. So until they prove that they can finish, Platteville's got the biggest gauntlet, I think, with the 4 top teams in the conference all in a row. So they got to make it through that. But right now, I'm hopeful that if we are on the outside looking in for Whitewater, then obviously it's going to be the Warhawks. But as of right now, I'm going to say Platteville's going to be in there. That's my guess.
In the Isthmus Bowl, bold move. I mean, man, I tell you what, Wheaton probably matches up best with Platteville. I would say offensively. I mean, WashU's looking pretty good from the CCIW, but it's going to come down, in my opinion, who gets in is going to be the Augie WashU game, because we're going to assume Wheaton's going to get in as the second team in the CCIW. So I think it's going to come down to Augie WashU. So I don't know if the Isthmus Bowl wants, and I'm speaking just from my personal opinion, we don't want a River Falls WashU refresh. I mean, that would be the 3rd time. So
I'm scared
we
to
don't
say
want
it,
the
but I
second.
feel like it's likely. Yeah, I think that could be likely.
Let's pull some miracles out. So, all right. Well, gentlemen, we are back to you 2 for final thoughts. So we will kick it to you.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, final thoughts. I just want to touch on some other huge, big results. I think that deserve mentioning. Ithaca with a big win over Rochester, 10-6. Bellhaven in overtime over Brevard. That was a really big game down there. They win by 3. Muhlenberg, a team that cracked the top 25. Really good offense down there. Ursinus and Muhlenberg always going to put up a ton of points. Muhlenberg puts together a really good comeback, wins by 3. Hampton-Sydney was a team that got upset this week from the poll. They were number 19. They lose by 8 to Washington and Lee, who's always a tough team to beat. They run the ball so well. Adrian, team that's like really getting some steam now after their win with Valpo, getting into conference play. They beat a good Albion team 28-7. Bethel and St. John's, I mean, we got to mention that one. What a huge game. Bethel's going to win the conference. I'll say it now. What a prediction. No one in that MIAC is going to beat them. 17-10, they win that game at home. St. John's will be a tough out. If they get sent on the road, as the second MIAC team, I would not want them rolling into my building. Holy cow, that's going to be a really good playoff team there. And then John Carroll, 31-28 over Wabash. John Carroll in the driver's seat there to get that automatic bid. Wabash put together a late effort there, but it just fell short. John Carroll, I think, is a really underrated team this year. And then looking ahead to next week, Carnegie Mellon at Johns Hopkins. I think that's a super interesting matchup. Carlo, our boss man here, he got to see Carnegie Mellon up close, and when they lost that game to lacrosse, he still had lots of positive things to say about Carnegie Mellon. I think that's a team that could give Johns Hopkins some fits. And then Platteville River Falls, obviously, we heard about some of these games. Trinity and Barry, We shouldn't skip over that one next week. That's a huge game. And then Muhlenberg and Franklin and Marshall, kind of a sleeper game right there. Franklin and Marshall's a really good team. That's my final thoughts. Just looking ahead and looking back. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that Bethel St. John's game, and again, kudos to our brethren, our constituents, the Rejects, for being up there and casting a spotlight on that, and a phenomenal job and a phenomenal game. I had kind of underrated Bethel because I've seen them play Whitewater, and I thought that was going to be all St. John. So kudos to them for pulling that one out. As far as our schedule this week, not as interesting because it's week 2, and I think there's not a whole lot of matchups to draw attention this week. I think I'm going to be watching Platteville and River Falls, like you said, Mike, Oshkosh and Stout. If the Blue Devils can keep that interesting. Interestingly enough, the Lacrosse Eau Claire start is at 11:30 a.m. And Mike, I know you're kind of connected to that Blue Gold program. Any idea why that's so early, apart from the 1 p.m. starts?
Yeah, that's actually a yearly thing they do. So our local, I think it's ABC, our local ABC affiliate here that covers basically all of Western Wisconsin. They actually broadcast this game because they have, a station in La Crosse and a station in Eau Claire. So they broadcast the game live. So it's kind of a regionally televised game. So it has to do with the TV deal. So
Got
I
it.
guess in whatever that fits in their programming, it always has to be at 11:30. That was always kind of
All right.
annoying for me. I don't know how the Big Ten schools do it at 11 a.m., but I remember playing that game, and it felt early.
Yeah, we had the 11 a.m. start of Mary Hardin Baylor a couple of weeks ago, and it was not pleasant at all. So I'm with you on that. Whitewater goes to Stevens Point. Get right game for the Warhawks, and like we were talking about before we started rolling. Statement for Whitewater to put up a bunch, get in the whole 60 travel roster, get out of there without any injuries, and take care of business. So that's what I'm going to be looking forward to this coming week.
Yeah, tons of good games. Hopefully, everyone can get to a game near them.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully our fearless leader is enjoying a little bit of Nashville, and he's kind of bar hopping with his fair lady on his way back to West Virginia. So
Watch out, Broadway.
that's right. The Carlo Guadagnino storm that is making its way through Nashville, Tennessee. So, well, it's been a fun one, guys. Thanks again here for tonight. And based on some good recommendations here from our couch crew down here in the bottom corner, we may have some more content coming to you here shortly. So again, tune in. Yeah, there it is. We have a lot of I'll say we have some offline wagers and conversations going on. So we might start to make some of that stuff a little bit more conversational here on Voices in the Stands. So again, it's been a good one. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us here on Sunday night, and we look forward to another one here next weekend. So enjoy your evening.